Hello and welcome to the ACMG competition tutorials. Today we're going to be talking about drawing the HUD elements on the screen. Now, in this one we will not be testing it or looking at it, but I'll show you how to go ahead and, draw your player's name on the screen. Maybe some information about your game, how to play the game. Who knows? That's up to you guys. In this one, I'm actually just going to show you how to draw the sprites on the HUD and how to draw text. So let's go ahead and jump right into our object player that we had made in our previous tutorial. And let's just start by creating an event by going to Add Event. And then under the Draw event, we're going to click on Draw GUI. And what this does, a GUI is a graphical user interface, and it draws everything above the game completely. Like you don't have control over the depth, with the other objects. It is literally on screen. So that's a good one to use. Now, if you just wanted to draw like the text of your player's name and all that stuff like right above him, then you would use the draw event and it would use the local X and Y values. But with the draw GUI, this uses the entire screen. And so for this example, we are going to be using a 640 by 480 view, and that's what I'm going to be basing the X and Y's off. So we're going to start out by going to the Controls tab on the right-hand side and dragging the code block over. And inside this code block, we have a huge text window. And I know this is going to be scary at first, you guys, but I will hold your hand through it, and we will make it through just fine. This is going to be awesome, I promise. Let's see if I can make this larger. It's not letting me make the code larger, so I'm going to make the screen size different. Yeah. Alright. So let's go ahead and create the code for this. Now, like I said, we want to draw a player's name and we want to draw the player's sprite. So this would be like, it tells us what kind of player's on the screen. So we're going to use some functions inside of GameMaker. And like I said, don't be intimidated. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you need a specific tutorial on something, get enough requests, can possibly make it for you so that it can aid you in your game design. Otherwise, let's just jump right into this. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by doing a comment. And comments are made by doing the double backslash. And this is your question mark key on your keyboard. And then this makes it so anything we write after this, as long as we don't hit enter, it will not run in the game's code. So for this, we're just going to make sure we comment our code and talk about what we want here. So this is going to be we're going to draw the player's sprite. So to do this, we type in draw underscore sprite, and then we do an open parentheses, and then it's going to ask us for the sprite that we want to use, and as you can see, it's SPR player, and then comma, and it's going to ask for the sub image, and since we don't have any animation frames, it's just going to be 0. And then our X and Y values. Let's go ahead and just put this player sprite at 10, 10. So let me go ahead and do an example in Paint for anyone who is curious. Alright, so we have a grid that looks like this. This is the window. Alright, so we got the game screen, and the X and Y values go like this. Anything in the X goes this way, or this way, which would be off screen. And then any of the Y values go this way, or the other way. And I'm sorry if that looks like an X. It's a Y. I think I made it worse. Anyways, so Any x values are horizontal, any y values are vertical. Negative y values are up, positive y values are down, negative x values are left, positive x values are right. And so, yet again, Josh's little image board. That was terrible. Okay. So now that we drew the player's sprite on the screen, see how easy that was? We can go ahead and draw the player's name. So, and we're going to go ahead and start off with the draw function again, underscore, and then since we're drawing text, we can type in text, and then we're going to find the x and y location of it. And as you can see, the player's location is 10 by 10. So we don't want it to be on top of the player. We want it to be to the right of the player. And remember, as we said, positive x values is further over to the right. And our screen's going to be 640, so, you know, we got a lot of space to mess with. But we're going to go ahead and put it with the sprite. And let's go ahead and put it at 15 by 10, because we do want it to be the same y value as the player. And then it's asking for what we want to put. And our player's name is going to be Radith Dart. And then we close it by putting a close parentheses. And I'm going to show you something. You don't have to do this in this code, but I do it just for the sake of all the programming languages that I know. And what it is semicolon to tell the game's programming engine that this is the end of the line. And it just helps make it look good. So I know it seems very simple and all, and it really is. Now you have the player's sprite and its name. And I lied to you guys. I'm actually going to show you what that looks like on screen. So I will teach you how to create rooms in another tutorial. But for now, I'm just going to create a quick one and I'm going to run it so you guys can see what I got. Alright, as you can see, we have our player sprite here. This is actually the object of the player. And then we have our HUD elements over here on the left-hand side. And it has our player sprite and his name. And as you can see, it's kind of like inside of the player sprite a little bit. So this is where the tweaking comes in. And we can go ahead and modify that. So I'm going to modify the x value to be 25 rather than 15. So it's 15 across from it. And this should give it a little bit more space, as you can see. So that's how you draw a HUD, and now you know how to draw an image and text on there. Let me go ahead a little bit further. If you guys are interested, I can show you how to draw variables on there. And if not, go ahead and close this tutorial and move on to the next one. But if you're curious on how to use variables and what they do, let's go ahead and continue. So in this object's create event, we're going to pull another code block into the screen. And let's go ahead and create a variable. Now a variable is something that can actually store anything. It can store objects, it can store sprites, it can store numbers, text, arrays, just everything. But we're going to keep it simple. We're just going to store the player's name. And variable naming can be kind of just how you want it to be, but it is case sensitive. So whatever you put is what the variable's name is going to be, and it's across this entire object. We're not really going to get into global variables or local variables or anything like that and explain that. All you're going to need to know right now is that we are creating a local variable that only this object can use. So a variable is anything. And since it can be anything, let's go ahead and start with text. And it's going to be the player's name. So I'm going to use str for string, because this variable is indeed a string of text. And so str, and then we're going to do player name. And no spaces. You can use underscores if you would like, but no spaces. And then we're going to do equals. And then in quotations, we are going to put the player's name. And again, I'll just, for the sake of this tutorial, let's do Radith Dart. Wow, let me type again. Okay, so this is the variable to store the player's name. And you know what? I'm going to select this, and I'm going to copy it, just because I'm lazy. And back in our draw GUI event, we're going to go back to the code block. and we are going to change where it says rated dart in the string, and we're going to paste in that variable's name. And as you can see, it did not throw an error or anything because this is a string. So when we run the game, looky there, it says rated dart still. And in case you're skeptical and you like, oh, that's a lie, it's not really changing anything, let's go ahead and change it. I don't know. Let's we're gonna use this guy's name. He did some playthroughs of a game that we made here. So I'm gonna change it to Alexandus and go ahead and test out the game so I can show you. Hey, look, it's his name. So there you have it. A simple variable. It's a name, and it's being drawn inside the HUD. Now you ask, but you just use a string. How come, this is going to work with other things? Yeah, sure, why not? I'm going to go ahead and cut SPR player out of here, and I'm going to rename this. It's a variable, so I'm going to just call it pSprite for player sprite. And let's remember that. Don't forget that variable name, because we're going to go ahead and create it here. And we called it pSprite equals, and then we're just going to use the player sprite, the SPR player. Now this variable, pSprite, equals the player sprite. And this will have the same effect as it did with the variable. So it still shows the player sprite, his name, and then the objects down here, of course. So I hope you guys enjoyed that quick little tutorial on variables. I look forward to the next tutorials, and I hope you guys do as well. Thank you guys for watching.